Mission is simple: to help high achievers naturally eliminate emotional and physical obstacles so they can optimize their life for higher achievement. Welcome. You have just entered the Genesis Zone. Good day, and welcome to the Genesis Zone show. This is Dr. Brian Brown. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Thursday to join us. First of all, if you were here 30 minutes ago when I thought I went live, I apologize. We had a technical glitch, and I just did the whole show without even realizing that it actually wasn't live. So apparently the software that we use to simulcast to multiple places at one time, it just had a hiccup this morning, and it didn't record, it didn't send the live broadcast out. So here we are. Are you a child of the 70s and 80s? Well, if you are, then one of the most amazing strengths in life is your biggest flaw in your wellness journey. Now, today, we're going to discover what that flaw is and how you can get on a path to health and wellness and brain-body optimization to overcome that flaw. Now, we're talking to Gen Xers today, and I'm a Gen Xer. Why do they call us the forgotten generation? Why do they call us the sandwich generation? And why do they call us the most stressed generation? Is it because we pretty much raised ourselves and we were the original latchkey kids? Or is it because we find ourselves situated between boomer parents and millennial children who kind of have a tendency to suck all the air out of the room? Or is it because we're masters at taking care of everything and everybody except for ourselves? Better yet, what does all this have to do with healthy aging or resetting your brain and body function to its youthful abilities, or reducing symptoms associated with depression and anxiety, or even decreasing and eventually eliminating your need for prescription medications? Well, those are good questions. I think when your body and brain don't cooperate anymore, it has everything to do with it. Listen, let's admit it. Gen Xers like you and me are just built differently. We're cut from a tougher, more resilient type of material that screams, survive and thrive, not give up and whine. Heck, just look at our childhood experiences to see what I'm talking about. We were formally trained with a do or die mindset by age 2. We had the keys to the house by age 5. We could cook full meals by age 7. We never wore seatbelts. We rode in the back of pickup trucks. We were pretty much self-sufficient by age 9. We left the house at dawn every day during the summer months and didn't come back until dark. Our breakfast usually consisted of a piece of cinnamon toast or a bowl of cereal for breakfast, and we fixed it ourselves. We thought it was fun to run behind those bug spray fogger trucks that I'm quite certain sprayed DDT. I've probably inhaled a lot of that in my life. We rode our bikes all over town, like miles and miles away from home, without any fear of abduction. We survived on water from garden hoses, the official sports drink of summer. And if we were lucky enough, we might get a bologna sandwich from a friend if one of the moms actually went shopping. Oh, and a PB&J or Kool-Aid at a friend's house were luxury items. We even made our own popsicles from super concentrated, highly sugary Kool-Aid in those Tupperware popsicle molds. Remember those? We spent 3/4 of our childhood by ourselves with only the occasional check-in from an adult in our life. We played outside in the rain. Yes, even in thunderstorms. We walked around the neighborhood barefooted. We caught lightning bugs in jars and played in the dirt. We had to call the check movie time number on a rotary dial phone just to see what time the one movie was showing at the theater. We listened to the actual radio and lived for the weekly top 40 countdown with Casey Kasem and Rick Dees. And we recorded our favorite songs on cassette tape. We remember when Friday night videos hit the scene and actually either planned our Friday night around it, or we set the VCR to record it so we wouldn't miss it later, so we could watch it later. We were the OG home video game nerds, ushering in Atari, Nintendo, and the first personal computers. We respect the original SNL cast, not this watered down cast that we have today. We could actually go to the store and buy cigarettes for a parent with only a note. Imagine that. We answered the phone attached to the wall without any caller ID to tell us who was calling. And when we started driving, we didn't have cell phones to call if our car broke down. We simply walked to a stranger's house and asked to borrow their phone, even if it was midnight. We didn't get our feelings hurt by words. In fact, we really didn't get our feelings hurt much at all. We shook it off or had a snappy comeback. And yes, the 70s and 80s were full of snappy comebacks. We didn't wear bike helmets either. We just got irreversible brain damage and didn't cry about it. And you've never lived until you let your bare foot slip off that metal spiky foot pedal on a 10-speed bike and hit your shin with it and skinned your bare toe on the pavement all at the same time. You could also literally sever a limb. And if you went to your mom or one of the neighborhood moms, they'd slap some hydrogen peroxide and mercurochrome on it, on that bloody nub, and send you back outside to play. Right? And remember school playgrounds with those metal slides that would peel the flesh off of the back of your legs because they got so hot? And what about those ginormous jungle gyms with nothing but hard ground underneath and no cushy foam or rubber pieces to cushion your fall? And if you could run up the slide, you had skills. Instead of calling us Gen X, they should call us Gen Tough, because we survived our childhood. No, dare I say, we thrived in spite of our childhood, and we continue to thrive today. In fact, we are thrivers with a capital T. Embrace it, own it. And every bit of this resilience and thriving from our childhood carries forward to our professional lives too. We have a work smarter, not harder mindset, but at the same time, working hard is built into our DNA. And when we do work hard, we expect to play hard. We're fiercely independent. We're resourceful like MacGyver. We're extremely self-sufficient. We're driven. We're adaptable. We love being around people, but we aren't afraid to be alone either. In fact, we love our alone time. We know how to communicate and make eye contact without a digital device in our hand. And most importantly, we are in the constant pursuit of the perfect work-life balance routine. You might even say we would define these as sacred boundaries, and we'd do pretty much anything to protect them. But guess what? There's some bitter irony here. Despite our best efforts at thriving in our middle-aged years, it's that fierce independence that, pardon the expression, bites us in the butt every single time. Now, allow me to explain. It's thriving through all of these things from our formative years that made us fiercely independent. Yet, when it comes to seeking help for our own health challenges, it's our fierce independence that keeps us from getting the right help and ultimately thriving. Yes, sometimes we put off discovering the best options for wellness, healing, and optimization for our body and brain because we've tried to do it all on our own. And sometimes, let's face it, we don't even like to admit that we need help. And eventually our body and brain, they just stop cooperating with us. Now, when the body and brain stop cooperating, I call this state a moody brain and a moody body. Do you feel like this is where you are right now? I mean, what does a moody brain and a moody body even look like? Well, it might look something like this. It might include mood changes, meaning you're kind of annoyed over little things. You're easily irritated, or you're just sad for no apparent reason. Or your anxiety is high, or you just don't react to stress very well. Or you have poor attention, concentration, and focus, scattered thinking, short-term memory challenges, brain fog, and weight gain that seems like it just came out of nowhere overnight. Or maybe you'd just rather sleep than go out. But the weird thing is, you can't hardly sleep at night when it comes time to go to bed. Everything hurts. You ache all over, or everything just feels like a chore because you don't have any energy. How do I know so much about having a body and a brain that stop cooperating with you? Is it my 8 years of college and doctoral level education? Is it my 24 years of experience working with clients, or is it something else? Well, first of all, I'm keenly aware of what being fiercely independent and refusing to get help can do for you. You see, all of these symptoms that I just mentioned describe me during my early wellness journey. I was electrocuted at age 5. And shortly after that, I began having what was incorrectly diagnosed as night terrors. Now, fast forward 40 years later, when I nearly passed out while driving 80 miles an hour on the interstate. All of my symptoms were night terror like symptoms, except they happened during my waking day for the very first time in my life. Now, to make a long story short, I received an extensive cardiac workup while they were trying to figure out what was going on. And it was discovered that my heart was stopping multiple times per night. And the times that my heart stopped correlated perfectly with the supposed night terrors. Now, within days, I found myself in surgery having a pacemaker implanted in my chest. Now, I wish I could say that I walked into the sunset and lived happily ever after, but nothing could be further from the truth. Sure, the pacemaker kept my heart from stopping, but there were a lot of residual issues. You see, each time my heart stopped beating during the night, my body would jumpstart my heart back to beating again by releasing massive amounts of adrenaline into my bloodstream. Now, this obviously worked well for 40 years. However, it was the 40 years of high adrenaline exposure that took a massive toll on my brain and body. It caused me to have a 16-year battle with depression and anxiety where I tried 9 different pharmaceutical medications to help me resolve it. I chronically struggled with poor attention, concentration, and focus. I had scattered thinking, brain fog, and memory challenges. I was chronically tired all the time. I would just as soon sleep than go out or do anything for that matter. And what was so weird was that even though I was so tired all the time, I could hardly sleep at night. In fact, I rarely ever felt rested. And as if that wasn't enough, everything felt like a chore. I ached all over my muscles, my joints, my head, everything. Oh, and I almost forgot. I put on weight like crazy. Between the adrenaline causing huge spikes in cortisol, and by the way, cortisol is the stress hormone that causes weight gain. So between the spikes in adrenaline and the huge releases of cortisol that followed that, and the 9 different prescription medications that I had to be on, I gained up to 390 pounds. You heard that right. It's not something I'm proud of. But at one point in time, I weighed over 390 pounds. Hard to believe, isn't it? Now, here's the good news. Just because you don't feel your best right now doesn't mean you can't feel great again within the next 90 days. Yep, you heard that right. Within the next 90 days. Since I left traditional practice and converted over to functional and integrated medicine, a type of practice where we start with root causes instead of putting pharmaceutical band-aids on things, I've been able to not only help myself, but help over 1,000 people in the past 12 years overcome things like mood challenges, anxiety issues, poor attention, concentration, and focus, scattered thinking, short-term memory problems, brain fog, weight gain, lack of energy, autoimmune disorders, sleep disturbances, and even avoiding or getting off of prescription medications. And a little secret that I don't advertise, that even includes addictive antidepressants and anxiety medications. But the coolest thing of all is this, is that 80% of the people that I've worked with over the past 12 years get resolution of their lifelong issues within 90 days. Sounds hard to believe, I know. But thanks to a system that I've literally spent the last 24 years of my career pouring into and perfecting, it's possible. I call it the Moody brain and body reset. Now, allow me to share an example of a client that I've been working with so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, this client came to me and had been diagnosed with an unknown autoimmune disorder. She'd been referred to specialist after specialist, but no one could quite seem to figure out what was going on. One specialist would say, I think it's early stages of lupus, but it's too early to call it that. Another would say that, no, I think it's early stages of MS. And that went back and forth for years. Now, overall, she perceived that she was feeling pretty good. After all, with where she had come from in the 3 years before she met me with this trial and error autoimmune prescription medication regimen, she did feel better. But as she told me, there was something that was still nagging at her on the inside that she couldn't quite put her finger on. She wanted to go deeper and make sure that she had all of her T's crossed and all of her I's dotted. So we began working together. Now, we had a crazy beginning to our start. During the first 6 weeks of working with her, she had influenza and subsequently ended up with shingles right after that. Now, the reason this was so crazy was this was her MO. It had been her MO for years. Typically, she would get sick with influenza or some other respiratory infection about 2 or 3 times a year, and it would be followed with an outbreak of shingles or a worsening of her autoimmune condition. We call it a flare-up. Regardless, her immune system was really, really struggling. Now, mind you, remember, she perceived that she was doing very well. Now, since we had her laboratory tests, advanced laboratory tests that we do in the program, since we already had those in hand, I began working on those things that showed that she had a lot of inflammation and poor detoxification and poor methylation. So overall, her course of illness was much shorter than in previous years. But because of her setback at the beginning of us working together, we were delayed in implementing some of the key parts of the Moody Brain and Body Reset program. However, once we start and got all of the pieces in place, she responded rapidly. Within 8 weeks, she told me, then this is a quote, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize how bad I actually felt until I had something to compare it to." Now we've been working together for over 3 years. And in that 3 years, she's not been sick. She hasn't had the nasty influenza 2 or 3 times a year that she normally had. She's not had the Cupid virus that has ravaged the planet for the past 3 years and all of its nasty variants. And she's not even had that even when her husband and her son had it that she lived in the same house with. Her immune system is stronger today than it ever has been. And she will tell you that she is stronger than ever, has more energy, has more stamina, has more endurance, thinks more clearly, has a better mood. And she tells me that the recent rapid growth of her business that she's had for nearly 10 years can be directly attributed to the optimization of her health. When working with her or any other client for that matter, there are 5 simple steps to the Moody Brain and Body Reset program. Number 1, get together and talk about the journey. I personally want to know where you've been. I want to hear you out. I want to understand every detail. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is complete my proprietary Genesis Zone questionnaire and order very specific tests for what we're going to be looking at. And then step number 3 is review those test results so that we can collaborate together and co-develop a personalized plan to fit your unique needs. Step 4, implement, monitor, and revise your bespoke plan. And step number 5, lock in the results and transition to maintenance. That's all I've got. It's really that simple. And you may be thinking, this really doesn't resonate with me, Dr. Brian. I don't have an autoimmune condition. I just have problems with depression, or I have problems with anxiety, or I have problems with fatigue and low energy. You know, regardless of where you are at this point, this system works. It works for anybody because it helps us diagnose and fine tune and really get down to what I call the true root causes at the genetic level. So that's all I've got for today. If you want to discuss this further, message me on Facebook or Instagram at Dr. Brian G. Brown, and I'll be glad to talk it over with you. Or maybe you're one of those self-starter type people who wants to know more about that one key aspect of the 5-step process, and you want to take steps to go a little bit deeper in that journey, well, I've got the perfect solution for you. I created a short self-paced program to walk you through it. It's called the Gene Hack Bootcamp, and you can subscribe for free at drbriangibrown.com/gene hack/bootcamp. All right. Tune in next Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time for our next In the Zone segment, where I'll be sharing my insights about research as it relates to your physical and emotional wellness journey, as it relates to your genetics, as it relates to just cutting edge technology that's hitting the market and has the potential to really change and improve our lives. Most informed, most trusted, and most grateful that you spent this time with us today. Until next time, stay in the zone. I'm Dr. Brian Brown.